One stock to watch at the open: McDonald's third quarter sales topping estimates thanks to higher prices. The CEO saying, quote, "The macroeconomic environment is unfolding in line with our expectations for the year. We remain confident in our future and the strategic direction of our business."
There was a time when McDonald's felt like a promise, not just a restaurant. A promise that no matter where you were in America, you could walk in with a few dollars and walk out fed. That promise built one of the most recognized brands in human history. Over 40,000 locations, billions of customers served, a name so embedded in daily life that it became a symbol of America itself. But something shifted, and not all at once. It happened slowly, quietly, across years of small decisions that each seemed reasonable in isolation. Price changes, recipe adjustments, store redesigns, policy updates. None of them were dramatic on their own. But together, they added up to something the company did not anticipate. The customers noticed. And then they started leaving.
No, Joe, I'm sure it will come up on the conference call, but this quarter ended before that began. I'll take you through the numbers here. The fast food giants results beat on the top and bottom lines. EPS $3.23 adjusted, better than the $3.20 analysts were looking for. Revenues $6.87 billion, also slightly above the $6.82 billion projected. But same store sales missing estimates across the board. In the U.S., which is its key market, sales increased 0.3%. That was slightly less than the 0.5% analysts estimated. The tepid sales growth came amid value campaigns like the $5 meal and marketing successes like its collectible cups, along with growth in digital and delivery. Globally, sales also fell more than anticipated, 1.5% drop versus the estimate of down 0.6% rather. International operated market segment sales fell 2.1% versus the estimate of down 1.2%, and international developmental license market segment sales down 3.5% versus the estimate of down 1.2%.
To understand where McDonald's is today, you have to understand where it came from. Ray Kroc did not invent the hamburger. He did not even invent the McDonald's system. What he did was look at a small burger stand in San Bernardino, California, run by two brothers, and see something no one else recognized at the time. He saw a machine, a system so efficient, so repeatable, so scalable that it could be planted in any city in any state and produce the exact same result every single time. Consistency was the product, speed was the competitive advantage, and low price was the promise that brought everyone through the door. By the 1960s and 1970s, that formula was unstoppable. Working families found it affordable. Teenagers found it convenient. Truck drivers found it reliable. Every demographic that needed a quick, cheap meal found McDonald's waiting for them.
To me, it was all inclusive. It was Irish to the Irish. It sounded Scotch to the Scotch. It was a typical English-American word. It flowed. McDonald's. It was easy for the kids to say and remember. And I liked the sound of it. It sounded wholesome, and it sounded genuine, you know. I don't like these gimmick-type names, you know. Burger this and burger that and all that kind of stuff. McDonald's, it's got a nice-sounding name. It sounds like...
The 1980s turned McDonald's into something more than a restaurant. Ronald McDonald became one of the most recognized fictional characters on the planet. The Happy Meal, introduced in 1979, fundamentally changed how families thought about eating out. McDonald's wasn't just selling food anymore. It was selling an experience, a destination, a ritual that entire generations built into their weekly routine. By 1990, McDonald's had over 11,000 locations worldwide. By 2000, that number had more than doubled. The financial results matched the expansion. Revenue climbed year after year. Franchise fees poured in. McDonald's became one of the most valuable brands on earth, not just in fast food, but across any industry, in any category, anywhere. But peak performance has a way of hiding structural problems. When sales are strong and the stock is rising, internal warning signs get dismissed. Uncomfortable feedback gets filtered out, and the assumptions that drove early success start to calcify into beliefs no one questions. For McDonald's, One of those unquestioned beliefs was this: the customer will always come back. It was a reasonable belief built on decades of evidence. Through recessions, through competitors, through health scares, through bad press, the customer had always come back. So when a few voices inside and outside the company started raising concerns in the mid-2000s, the institution was slow to take them seriously. Those concerns were about price, about quality, about relevance, about whether the brand was still speaking to the people it had always claimed to serve.
Yeah, they're 5 for 10 now as far as meeting or beating Wall Street's estimates with global sales. Today they beat the estimate, although still a decline, right? We were looking for a 2.2% decline for McDonald's October sales globally. They came out with a decline of 0.5%, so better than estimates, but still a drop. The U.S. area, which is a problem, has been a problem because of growing competition, because of a bloated menu, was helped a little bit by the monopoly promotion that McDonald's had going on in October, so a decline of only 1% compared to an estimate of 1.9%. Over in Europe, obviously, the economy's been a problem there, so still seeing shrinkage, but only 0.7% compared to the estimate of a drop of 2%. And in Asia, where the real problem has been a concern that some of the food, especially the meat, could be dangerous. In China, you saw a drop of 4.2%, but we were looking for a 6.1% decline.
The fast casual category changed everything. Chipotle opened in 1993, the same year McDonald's was posting record profits. For years, it was a curiosity, a regional niche, nothing that threatened the golden arches. Then, it wasn't a curiosity anymore. By 2010, Americans had internalized a new idea. You could get food that was faster than a sit-down restaurant, roughly the same price as fast food, and made with ingredients you could actually identify. The trade-off that McDonald's had always relied upon, cheap price in exchange for lower quality, was disappearing. Five Guys, Shake Shack, In-N-Out, Whataburger. Each of them offered something McDonald's could not easily replicate: the sense that the food was real. McDonald's response was complicated. On one hand, the company invested in store redesigns, modernizing the interiors and adding digital ordering kiosks. They introduced fresh beef for Quarter Pounders in 2018, a genuine improvement that received positive attention.
Well, McDonald's is doing away with frozen beef, at least in some of its meals.
The burger giant announced Quarter Pounders will have fresh beef starting in May. In the past few years, McDonald's has changed up a few meals in order to improve its image. It took the antibiotics out of its chicken nuggets, added fruit options, and removed soda from its Happy Meals.
They expanded their coffee program and grew the McCafe line into a legitimate revenue stream. These were not small changes. They cost significant capital. And in many respects, they work. If you are finding this kind of analysis valuable, consider subscribing. This channel covers the business stories behind the brands you interact with every day, told without the noise and without the hype. One click keeps you in the conversation. But modernization has a cost that goes beyond construction budgets. When McDonald's redesigned its stores, it removed the playgrounds, the brightly colored furniture, the character murals, the elements that had made a McDonald's visit feel like a small event for a child rather than simply a transaction. The new stores were cleaner, more efficient, more digital, and for a significant portion of the customer base, they felt emptier. This was not purely sentimental. Research consistently shows that emotional connection drives brand loyalty at least as powerfully as price or convenience. McDonald's had spent decades building that connection and then systematically dismantled many of the physical elements that had sustained it. The pricing decision is where the story becomes most consequential. Between 2014 and 2024, the average price of McDonald's menu items rose significantly faster than inflation and significantly faster than wage growth for the low and middle income households that had always been McDonald's core customers. The fries, the burgers, the combo meals. Each price increase was defensible individually. Food costs were rising, labor costs were rising, supply chains were under pressure, especially following 2020. But the cumulative effect was something the company had not fully anticipated. The customer who had always chosen McDonald's because it was the affordable option began doing the math differently.
McDonald's has been hit by its first fall in global sales since the start of the pandemic in 2020, as lower-income consumers struggle with the cost of living. The boss of the fast food giant says the poor results are forcing them into a comprehensive rethink on the prices they charge. Here in the UK, the price of a Big Mac has gone up by almost 2/3 since 2020. McDonald's shares rose as the firm promised to develop cheaper meal deals.
No amount of special sauce can make higher prices more palatable, as McDonald's has found out. Sales at the burger giant sputtered, consumers around the world shying away from the higher cost of burgers, fries and soft drinks. Even the CEO admitted it was too expensive.
Beginning last year, we warned of a more discriminating consumer, particularly among lower-income households. And as this year progressed, those pressures have deepened and broadened.
A family of 4 at McDonald's was no longer a budget decision. In many markets, it had become a comparable expense to a sit-down meal at a local restaurant. And that changed the value equation entirely. The trust issue ran deeper than any single price point. Trust in a brand like McDonald's is built on reliability. You know what you are getting. The Big Mac in Phoenix tastes like the Big Mac in Boston. That consistency is the product. When customers began reporting that portion sizes felt smaller, that ingredients tasted different, that the experience had become less predictable, they were not just complaining about lunch. They were reporting that the contract had changed. And once that perception sets in, it is extraordinarily difficult to reverse. You cannot run a promotion to rebuild trust. You cannot discount your way back to credibility. The damage accumulates in customer memory and shapes behavior long after the specific incident is forgotten. The ice cream machine became a symbol that the company never asked for. What began as a running joke, the McDonald's soft serve machine is broken, became something more pointed over time. A website was built to track which locations had functioning machines. The Federal Trade Commission opened an inquiry. The story ran in publications ranging from local news to the Wall Street Journal. For McDonald's, the ice cream machine was never really about ice cream. It was about the gap between what the brand promised and what customers actually experienced, and that gap had become wide enough to generate its own cultural conversation. The sales data that emerged in 2024 confirmed what many had been observing for some time. Traffic was declining in the United States. The customers who had been McDonald's most reliable source of revenue, those in the lower income brackets who had few alternatives and a deeply formed habit, were visiting less frequently. Some were cooking at home, some were choosing grocery store prepared foods, some were simply going without. McDonald's responded with the $5 meal deal, a promotional bundle designed to signal that the company understood the affordability concern and was taking it seriously. The market received it with measured interest. It drove some traffic. But analysts noted quickly that promotional pricing addresses the symptom, not the underlying condition.
Reports say McDonald's is looking at launching a $5 value meal in an effort to win customers.
The average price of a quarter pounder in McDonald's in parts of the country has more than doubled in just the last 10 years. Rising prices forcing inflation-weary customers to turn to cheaper alternatives. And now the Golden Arches reportedly looking at that potential deal to try to win them back.
What McDonald's is experiencing now is not a crisis in the traditional sense. The company remains enormously profitable. Its real estate holdings alone represent a financial foundation that most businesses would never approach. But the cultural position has shifted. For decades, McDonald's existed in American life as a neutral institution, like the highway system or the post office. It was simply there, and that presence was its own form of power. That neutrality is harder to maintain now. The company has become a reference point in conversations about corporate pricing, food quality, labor practices, and the distance between what large institutions promise and what they actually deliver. Whether McDonald's can close that distance is an open question. The tools available to them are real. Genuine price restructuring, continued quality investment, a more honest conversation with customers about what the brand is and who it is serving. But the window for course correction is not unlimited. The families who decided this year that McDonald's no longer fits their budget are making new habits. The young consumers who grew up during fast casual's rise have different baseline expectations. Loyalty that took decades to build does not automatically return when a promotional deal appears on an app. What McDonald's faces now is not a marketing challenge. It is something more fundamental. It is the question every institution eventually has to answer after long success. Are you still building towards something, or are you managing what you already have? The answer to that question will determine whether the Golden Arches remain a symbol of something Americans trust, or become a reminder of how quickly that trust can erode when the institution stops earning it. If you made it this far, you already know this channel is not about sensationalism. It is about understanding the real forces behind the brands and industries that shape daily life. If that is the kind of content you find valuable, subscribing would genuinely help this channel grow. It takes 1 second, and it means these stories can keep getting made. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.